Right. Welcome, everybody. Really excited to have you at our monthly webinar here about what AI can and shouldn't decide in property management, which is what we'll be focusing on today. We'll give it about one more minute or so, and then we will jump on in. But as you sign in, you may see a little survey pop up that just has kind of what tier you're on. This always helps us gauge who's attending and also tailor any information both in the webinar and then also for webinars into the future. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So thanks everybody for joining today. Really appreciate it. Always happy to have both current clients and prospective clients as well joining us. And today we're going to be talking about what AI can and shouldn't decide within property management. And we're also going to go into kind of some of the general assumptions that a lot of us have as we dive in and start embracing AI or dipping our toes into the space, so to speak. But before we dive in, kind of a little background and a fun story that I do like to tell people because I think it's really interesting is that reCAPTCHAs were actually built for a very specific purpose that wasn't just security. And it's a really good example of how humans have always been involved in AI. We may just not always know it. And so for those of you that know that not CAPTCHA, but the reCAPTCHA specifically is a Google functionality. And when you click on the I'm not a robot, opens up a little screen. You have to pick kind of how many images have a crosswalk, how many have oranges or a bicycle. And what that actually is you training Google's LLM or their data set on what images are what, and it helps them build out their image recognition data set. And so even the biggest companies that are out there find ways that they need humans interacting with AI to make it better, make the experience better, and overall make the outcome better. And this is just a cool example of they found a way to kind of have kill two birds with one stone, both train their AI, but also kind of secure websites as well. And so as we dive into this, the belief that most of us walk into AI with is that the more advanced the AI, the less humans should be involved. And this is definitely valid. Like AI has a ton of information at its fingertips, a lot of workflows behind it. There's great technology. A lot of companies have been built very fast on this. When you interact yourself with ChatGPT, you're getting answers crazy fast as well. And so as it gets smarter and smarter, and as it gets better and better, like the overall assumption is that why should humans be involved in this process overall? And so when things pause or it appears that things break, we're asking why. Like, why is somebody else jumping in? Why am I being prompted in this scenario? Why do I need to provide input? And why didn't this happen instantaneously? And the difference is that it's not just the same old outcome. Like if you even go back like 3 years ago, it was really just automation of workflows and the ability to make more complex workflows, not just, hey, I received a text message, notify me on my home screen, but building in and saying, oh, I am getting notifications from these numbers during the workday. I don't want those notifications, but let my wife notify me and call me if needed. So building out like additional notifications, but it's generally pretty static workflows. And then things like data entry as well. It's taking a field from this screen or this system and just putting it into this other system as well. And now we're shifting into decision making. And so this analogy I'm going to use for a lot of this webinar is about teaching a kid to cross the street. So the first piece with automation, like sensing a car is coming. There's a car in the crosswalk. There isn't a car in the crosswalk. Your body reacts and you stop. Like that's a very simple automation. However, when you need to shift into when do I decide to cross the street and how do I decide to cross the street, that's a judgment. And now you're weighing speed, distance, and the driver's attention, whether you can make it. Is the crosswalk far enough away to where you can't reach it? Is it flashing red for me to maybe not cross now? Or is the green walk sign on? And so the automation is the ultimate like reflex, and then the decision making is the choice, and they're not the same thing in this new world. And so we still have generative AI versus agentic AI, and generative AI is suggestive. It's more of that like automation piece, that sensor. And then once you move into agentic, now we are actually deciding and working towards an outcome and accomplishing a specific task. So generative AI is like you standing at the curb telling your kid, like, I think it's safe. And they're looking at you saying, well, should I go? Should I not go? And then you're making a direction to your kid or the AI to cross the street when you believe it's safe. Agentic AI is the kid actually deciding to cross that street and stepping into the street. And when this changes, the stakes completely change as well. And that's why agentic AI requires a different level of trust and oversight. Like, we're not just suggesting anymore, we're taking actions on your behalf and have to own that overall outcome. And so through this, like, decisions create risk, like not just output. Like when we're looking at generative AI and just automation, like it's a lot of just output. There's data out there for us to make decisions on and take forward. But now that AI is actually making those decisions, somebody has to own that outcome. So like true ownership out of the outcome means that there is essentially a throat to choke, somebody to manage to, somebody that is going to answer to when things go wrong. And someone ultimately needs to be accountable too. So for example, like the moment that that kid steps into the street, someone's going to own what happens next. In general, it's usually the parent, but if you're out of school and there's a crossing guard, that person probably is the person that should own that scenario. But if they misjudge it, like you can't really blame the crosswalk. You can't really blame the car if they just jumped out of the street and saw that the car was coming. And someone has to make that call. And ownership isn't optional in this world anymore. It is required. And when an error happens, you need to know exactly where it came from and who owns that solution. And so the counterintuitive truth to this is that as AI becomes more and more capable, human involvement must become more intentional, but not necessarily less involved. So if you have huge complicated workflows, you have a lot of different scenarios going in place, you could have super high automation, but there may be scenarios where the kid is not certain in what it needs to do to cross that street safely. And so that's where you want intentional human oversight to, one, course correct before it gets hit by a car, but then also to help level it up too. Going back to like the recaptcha story, when that scenario comes in and the AI is uncertain, you can use that as an opportunity for humans in the loop to intentionally educate the AI to level it up and make it smarter into the future. Like even when you let your kid go and cross the street on their own, like you explain their blind spots, you're watching from further back, but you're still ultimately watching and guiding this tool. And the same is true for AI. More capability demands more intentional human involvement and not less overall. And so as an extension of this is the best teammates are actually hand raisers. So when you have somebody joining a team, like you don't just want them to automatically go out and just say, hey, I got everything. I'm going to do all this and don't worry about it. Don't even look at me. I'm going to do this just because it's a high level of confidence. But speed doesn't necessarily equal certainty, and confidence doesn't necessarily lead to great outcomes all the time. And so like with relating this back to our analogy is like the best thing you can teach a kid isn't just how to cross the street. It's when to say like, I'm not sure. If a car is too close, saying, hey, do we wait? Or is it time to go now? If it's now, instead of crossing a 2-lane street, now we actually have 4-lane streets with multiple crosswalks and multiple light signals. Like a confident kid who never hesitates is actually a terrifying kid. I know like my 3-year-old has been struggling to learn how to cross the street. And a couple of times he just started bolting and cars were coming and I was very stressed out. And so that's definitely not what I want for my kid. And you also don't want that for your AI that just blindly runs into spaces without context and without taking a step back. And the same thing occurs like with maintenance specifically. Like you don't want an AI that blindly dispatches a $400 HVAC call when the tenant just needs to change a filter. You want it to get additional context. And if for some reason it's not able to get that context, and it can say, hey, this might be a filter, but it also could be something else with the breaker electrical, but let's err on the side of caution. I'm going to raise my hand and say, like, should we have somebody else look at this before I go ahead and automatically do something? And that's really what you want. And especially from a new employee that would join too, if they're uncertain and they all of a sudden just said, hey, I'm just going to schedule the $400 HVAC person, you would also be a little frustrated with that outcome as well. And so the real risk isn't the AI making decisions and moving forward with speed. It's the risk is pretending that the AI is always certain. And this is why we at Vendoroo have like intentionally like put our human loop in the process, and why we believe that the best tools out there do have this level of oversight that continuously levels up their AI and also keeps it in check. Like the overall risk isn't that the AI like thinks that, sorry, let me back up. Like in property management, like that's the same as the AI approving like a $2,500 repair without blinking because it didn't know to question it, or like dispatches your most expensive vendor to your job that your handyman could have handled. And so it's not that the decision isn't the issue, it's when that decision isn't the correct decision and there's a level of uncertainty within it that it isn't trained to navigate at any point in time. So the trade-off that most vendors make as you're starting to look and evaluate AI tools, even like SaaS tools and things like that, is either you have to limit customization in order to offload work and time involved from a user, or you have to offload, or you have to decrease the complexity or offload the complexity to put that back on the consumer of that AI or that tool. Which means if you limit the customization, that you are now having to run your own company again. Like there's not flexibility, there's not a way of having different scenarios come in. It has to follow one specific path, and anything outside of that path just gets kicked back to you every single time. And the same thing with complexity is just built upon that. Like if you have to continuously build this bigger web and this bigger levels of uncertainty that the AI just can't handle or your system can't handle, then you're ultimately in the conversations over and over and over again. And that's ultimately not automation. That's just a to-do list with extra steps. And what you should be searching for with all of the decisions that you make with the platforms that you choose and the partners that you partner with is that you want help and not homework in the long run. So what does customization mean in the real world? And so like your portfolio isn't just one crosswalk. Like you've got owners with different approval thresholds. You've got vendors with different strengths and weaknesses, areas that they service and don't service, even though they're based in like Dallas, Texas, for example. There may be certain neighborhoods that they just can't get to because they're on one side versus the other. You may have a 1940s building with galvanized pipes next to a 2020 building with smart thermostats. And tenants that just range from they're the most smooth sailing, thank you for just helping me, to I am always frustrated, I need this done right now, and nothing is ever good enough. And every single variable essentially adds lanes to the road, makes it more complicated, changes the speed of the cars that are coming. And you can't just teach a system to handle one property type and call it done. Like that's not gonna work in the world of property management. And so where most AI stops, like this is the general curve, is that customization multiplies complexity faster than simple automation can handle. And so you have this degrading scale of low automation, high complexity. This is where humans in the past were always involved and always needed, and you couldn't get away from it. And then low complexity, like the moving a tenant from lead simple to rent bind, for example, when they sign their lease. Like that's a simple workflow that then just adds them to your property management software. Those are repeatable and low complexity. Property management like isn't predictable. Like you've got a tenant who only responds after 7 p.m. You have a vendor who's great, but slow to invoice. You have an owner who wants to approve anything over 300, but then everybody else is on another property management agreement that's over 500. And like, this isn't a criticism of any other tools. It's just a recognition that automation that is usually built for simplicity, and it hits a ceiling when your operation isn't simple. And so what were the trade-offs that Vendoroo chose overall? We didn't build our roos to handle the easy stuff. We're building them to handle the full life cycle and truly be your AI teammate. And that means things like remote troubleshooting before dispatching, but handling very different scenarios and property types and tenant interactions, smart vendor matching based on your specific preferences. So not just saying, hey, when a work order comes in, it says HVAC, it's always going to this one across the board. It's always going to your first choice. We want to be able to use your vendor's strengths and weaknesses and the preferences that you provide across all of our clients to give you a very unique AI teammate that can then utilize the information to coordinate between tenants and vendors and owners and chasing down invoices and doing all of those tasks so you and your team don't have to. And you all can really lean in to the value-added relationship building, business growth, and other activities that are very important to property management as well. But to do that, we also built in the judgment to know when they need to back up. So $3,000 on a water heater, that's probably above your not to exceed amount. Even on an emergency threshold, can it need approval for that? It's going to pause. It's going to raise its hand. Angry tenant that's escalating, if it's not able to de-escalate the situation after one try, it's going to raise it to you. Your AI teammate doesn't want to hold that information internally and keep it from you. And then also, if there's just a level of uncertainty based on the context that it has, it's going to stop and it's going to raise it to first the human loop that is on our side. And so where we have been consistently working for many, many months and years is pushing out this curve. And right now we're at a point where we're meeting high complexity and automation at a very large scale. And most AI handles the quiet, like residential streets just fine, like basic workflows, standard notifications, predictable scenarios. But like we've talked about, property management isn't predictable at all. Like you really need it to be customizable to you and also work at a large scale overall too. And so how does like a human loop really work? And so I'm going to give an overview of how it actually works at Vendoroo. There are some other vendors and providers out there that have their own different flavor, but this is how we view the best overall solution that gives you the greatest value as a consumer. And so you have your AI worker. This is your AI teammate. They're handling the day-to-day, the troubleshooting with tenants, the scheduling of vendors, gathering invoices, sending review links, and doing the vast majority of the bulk of the work, recommending vendors, assigning vendors, things along those lines. And then you have this AI judge, which is actually a layer in between your AI teammate and the human in the loop that essentially is watching how the work gets done and making a judgment call on like, hey, is this right? Are we certain enough here? Like, do we need to actually escalate this for somebody else to be involved? And all of our decisions have a confidence level that we are comfortable with internally. And when it falls below that threshold, it's saying, hey, human in the loop, I need assistance here. And that's going internally to us rather than going to you. So our human in the loop is actually the first line of defense, one, to improve the overall experience for you and to train the AI as well. And so these could be things like a sensitive approval, like super angry tenants, like a judgment call between like vendors and a policy conflict that you may have. And really each one of these things is doing their job in concert to keep as much noise out of your plate as possible. And that you're only getting the ones that really are around your policies. They say, hey, in these scenarios, I want to be involved. And if there's just information completely missing, like your AI teammates raising its hand saying, hey, I don't have this information, human in the loop actually check too. We just need to update my brain so I can learn into the future. And then in the future, you don't have to answer that same question again. So really, those are the two topics that we are aspirationally going towards to bring you in and only bring you in those situations. And so what does this ultimately not mean? Like I just mentioned, like we don't want more noise for you. Like just because there's human involvement doesn't mean that it's not accurate. It's not taking a burden off of your plate. It means that we are intentionally putting a review in place that's not you to make sure your AI teammate levels up and consistently gets better. And we handle the overall mess. And as a part of this is we are positioning ourselves to own that overall outcome as well. Like we view like ourselves as your AI teammate, your maintenance coordinator within this that is assisting all of your other maintenance teams, your vendors, your tenants and everything. And that outcome is extremely important, that it is done quickly as possible, but also it's making the right decisions in the right way. And so our human in the loop is actually the key to this. And when Aru raises its hand, it raises it to us first, as I mentioned. So not to you. Our team is absorbing that complexity so you can focus on growing your portfolio, not on micromanaging maintenance and your AI teammate. So like, for example, if there's a policy that comes in and it says, hey, like in this scenario, HVAC filters are always tenant scenario, but they just moved in. And we actually have like another note for you that says, oh, like if they just moved in, we actually will supply those. They just need to go through this path. Sometimes that can conflict and they're like, oh, I don't necessarily know when they moved in. So the human in the loop steps in, says, hey, what went wrong? AI teammate, let's find that additional context for you. Say, oh, they moved in within the last 30 days. We need to go down this path, and it directs them down that right path. So that's one brief example of a scenario that a human loop would step in, where historically and in scenarios where they don't have a human loop, that would go to you to manage, but this layer buffers you from things like that. And so why does this ultimately create better outcomes. And so the judgment layer is absorbing the complexity so your team doesn't have to. And then work orders are moving forward without you touching them. But when something's actually risky, like big expense, upset owner, potential liability, there's a human in the loop who owns that outcome first. And we're saying, hey, let's take a look at this before we involve the property manager and the teammate. And ultimately, it may still have to go to you, but you're getting a lot smaller volume of those than you would if this human loop wasn't overall there. And so as we start to think about like how we wrap this up is that like the wrong way to judge AI is speed and uniformity. So is it always instant and does it never deviate? Those are the way to think about old school like SaaS workflow automations and not how AI actually functions. And so like relating it back to our kid crossing the street is you wouldn't judge whether like the kid is ready to cross the street by asking, did they cross the street instantly every single time? And did they never hesitate? Like hesitating at a tricky intersection is a good sign. It means that they're paying attention to their surroundings, they're taking in context, and it means that they're not just going to jump into a scenario without building that environment and that view of what is contextually going on. But somewhere along the way, and we see this a lot, another example is with job hunting. We see this a lot in a lot of circumstances is we just started pushing speed and uniformity all the way through. People that are applying to jobs are auto-submitting resumes through AI, and then we have AI looking at it. So AI is evaluated on both sides, and it's just a matter of churning through it because there's so much volume coming in. And it's viewing pausing as if it's a bug. But if that same scenario said, hey, actually, I'm pausing because I don't know what to do with this resume. It's not fitting or conforming to something, and it actually looks pretty good or isn't meeting this exception. If somebody looked at that, you could find a diamond in the rough type of thing. And so the expectation is that AI currently should handle everything without human involvement and instantly is the wrong mental model to have. And so we would push and say that the right way to judge AI is that you want correct outcomes is the measure of success. You want trust preservation. So like, is that outcome happening consistently? Is it building trust with your tenants? Is it a great experience for your tenants and your owners and your vendors? Very few like overall failures, which are basically like, oh shit moments instead of like system downtime. Downtime, it means like everything's just off. But if an AI is actually working through and making decisions, it's always going to be on, and it's going to be consistently getting into scenarios where there could be these oh shit moments. And that's why we have the human loop, is to prevent those. And then overall owner is just the owner experience, especially in property management, is just like fewer arguments overall. And so is the AI making good calls? Do they recognize something when something's off? And do they ask for help when they need it? So instead of asking how fast and how automated, they're asking like, does it get the outcome right? Does it preserve trust with your owners? Does it avoid the moments that blow up in your face? And that's the shift from measuring activity to measuring judgment and correct outcomes. Same as like just a busy bee. Just doing work isn't necessarily the productive output. It's how effective and valuable are those inputs and outputs. And so how did we ultimately learn this? And so like similar to the Google reCAPTCHA story is you wouldn't just say, hey, AI, try to pick all these different images of oranges if you've never actually seen an orange before. AI is very similar. It's like as we're starting to push this into the maintenance space and really get involved in that area, AI teammates haven't really seen an HVAC system fail. They haven't seen a pipe burst or like what the context is between like a leak and a flood and all these things. And so as we started, it was humans plus AI, which is taking in all the data and categorizing it, helping train that AI, just like the reCAPTCHA. All this data is coming in. They're basically doing the same thing as picking apples versus oranges versus crosswalks and storefronts and learning where the AI is starting to fail safely. So basically operating them side by side of what would the AI have chosen and what did the human choose. So like automation and autonomy, but in a safe environment. And then once it's better than a human, then you flip it and you say, okay, now I'm going to have the AI lead and the human is going to support. And then at that point, you really need these escalation paths. So you're building in when it is uncertain, how do I bring it in? And then in the end, once you're super confident, it's basically operating at 100% every single time. You just remove those escalations and you can really automate and scale up. And so you really can't like shortcut these things. And even if you have all the data in the world, if you don't have the right context, if you don't have the right product layers and things like that, it's not going to function the best it can be for you in the end. And so, like as mentioned, we were built with humans from an AI from day one. For those of you that have met Juan in his famous kangaroo suit, he's front and center, and is a big part of all the advancements in like modern AI and stuff too. But our goal was and never has been to get humans out of the loop as fast as possible. The goal will always be that intentional human involvement at moments that matter will always be the best solution for our clients and for your AI teammate. And that's not a limitation. It's an overall design that we have consciously made, and we built the ruse to know when they're at a 5-lane intersection with no crosswalk, and all of a sudden like they're about to cross a freeway and they've never done that before. Like, what is this freeway? I'm going to ask a question, and in those moments the human is going to step in, and until we can build that overpass or that roundabout or that new stoplight and stop sign to make it so that the AI can safely pass, that human in the loop is going to take that on to make sure that those outcomes are as clean and as good as they possibly can be for all of our amazing clients. And this is what we do for pretty much every single release, every big leap and phase that we have in order to make that happen. And so I would challenge our initial assumption that AI should be have less human involvement the smarter and smarter it gets, and that the most advanced AI isn't going to eliminate humans. It's going to use them very intentionally and in very smart ways. A kid who can cross any street but knows when to wait, like that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for blind confidence. You're not constantly hand-holding, but there's intentional judgment of when that relationship brings and pushes people out of the overall decision making. And that's what AI should ultimately aspire to do. And so overall, what I would leave you with is not just for us, but for any AI that you evaluate in the space. And like as you're evaluating like your company too, like how you build your workflows, where you inject like automation, where you inject AI, where do you actually just keep your team as they are, is when things get weird. And in property management, we all know they have, and it's still amazing that things shock me today and I see new things. But what happens? Like, is there a system for catching it before the worst happens? Is there a human who owns the outcome? Or if the AI is actually owning the outcome, is there somebody behind that is going to stand by it and make sure it either gets improved or that they own that decision, whether that's right or wrong? Or is it just hoping that the kid or the AI doesn't walk into the traffic? And that's not what we want here at Vendoroo. It's not what we want for you. We want your outcomes to be as successful as possible, as frequent as possible overall. And so the overall question is not, is it autonomous, but is it accountable overall? All right. And so I know that was a lot of information. This one we really want to structure as we've gotten questions about like, hey, how do we utilize our human loop? Like, what are they? And we want to, like, we try to be as transparent as possible. Those of you that I've met with definitely know that I try not to sugarcoat anything too. And I like to open up the hood as much as possible. And this is one thing that we are actually very proud of at Vendoroo is our human loop team and capabilities as we build and release new features, but also just continuously level up our current solutions for you. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And it doesn't have to be related to this. It can be related to the webinar, but we have about 13 minutes left. And so if there's anything about products, workflows, new releases that you've seen, new functionality, or just a general question, happy to answer that as well. No questions? Look at our attendees. I know there's some people in here that have questions. All right. Sheila, yes, the presentation will be sent out overall. Let's see. Somebody did ask like what our relationship is like with the PMS like software platforms. Our goal overall is to be able to partner with whoever we need to, and also provide a solution to all of you. Like our stance has been, we're happy to work with any and all of them in any way, shape, or form. Yes, like Appfolio is coming out with their performers, and they like different PMSs, and also just different competitors out there are emerging and coming into this space as well. So there's naturally a level of friendly competition there, but we always want, from our perspective, we always want the best outcome for our clients. Sometimes that means like we don't have the best solution for who comes in and who's interested in our product. And we try to be upfront about that too and say, hey, we're not quite there yet, or like this isn't on our roadmap. Like this is it's you're not going to be happy with this solution. Like we want you as clients to be as successful as possible and meet you where you're at. And whether you are at one PMS now and shift over, like we want to move with you and how you work as well, and not feel like you have to be in one place or the other. And we, from our side, are really hoping that the property management software platforms work in that manner too, where we want the best outcomes for everybody. And sometimes that means that one person can't be everything to everybody. Like we do have clients like our side too, though we're a point solution in one space, and then something we do, they're using other functionality somewhere else just because it works better for their scenario. But we definitely hope that we can partner and be the best we possibly can be for anybody. Vicky, great question. This actually sounds like a good opportunity for customization. So we have some extremely complex workflows, and it's kind of broken into two sections. One is your AI teammates triage and troubleshooting, and the other is your AI teammates workflow once like a vendor is assigned. So once we identified the issue and what's going on, how do we actually coordinate all the parties involved to get things done? What you asked about, like the water mitigation company, sounds more like a troubleshooting and triage, teaching and customization opportunity. And so that can be done at any time through the PMRoo app. If any of you aren't familiar with that, we do have like the Chrome extension, which is the same as our PMRoo app, and there's a desktop version of it too. And you can use that to train your troubleshooting and triage. So if you ever see a worker come in and you're like, what's going on with this? Like I want it to do something different. You can just click on train Vendoroo troubleshooting within your AI chat function here, and this can live within your PMS. Like this is a Chrome extension version, so no matter what page you're on, like if I go to data, like a different page, like it just stays there. And if you're on a work order within your PMS that is that we are actively helping out with too, it'll automatically recognize that and sync it in. And you can just tell it, be like, hey, next time a water mitigation company might be needed, can't smell, always confirm if there was any water ever there. Like you can, so it's definitely an ongoing piece. And this is kind of like when we first onboard our clients, the expectation we have internally is kind of similar to, we're stepping back and looking at the AI or this kid cross the street of like a 4-lane highway, not a 4-lane highway, like a 4-lane street that has like a crosswalk signal and different street lights. And so when that, like the example, that would be pretty much 80% of troubleshooting and triage is good to go. The walk sign and the stoplight, that's kind of like policies that you put in place, your NTE, things like that. Let's say, hey, this is a warning signal of like, if you cross this place or this is a red stop sign, you need to stop. But there are still learning opportunities because different properties can be different. Different areas of the country are different too. Like you wouldn't have, like for a multifamily in New York, you may ask the tenant, hey, was there recently de-icer put down like in front of the building? But you're not going to ask that same question in San Diego. And so we have a very high level of success just like out of the box, but there are a lot of these opportunities for you all to truly make it one of your AI, like your own AI teammate within yours that is very different from somebody that is using it in a different part of the country. So yeah, that was a very long-winded answer. And if you have any questions about like, hey, why did it make this decision? Or like, how do I tweak this? Your AI coach, also known as your account manager, is the best person to go to for that. All right, let's see. Where are we at? Complex. So Catherine, great question about, have you received complaints from tenants about dealing with an AI? We do actively monitor that. And we actually show it to all of our clients. There's a weekly insights that has highest tenant frustration in it. And we monitor that internally too. It's one of the things that we are very conscientious about, so there are certain circumstances where sometimes the AI asks the same question twice and the tenant's like, why'd you ask this? I already knew that. That's like less than 1% of the time. We also have a lot of messages that actually come in and say like, thank you so much for getting back to me so quickly. Like this was super helpful, or like it successfully troubleshot the garbage disposal with them. Like it's working. Like, thank you. Like that was so much easier than getting a vendor to come out here. So it is on kind of both sides, but we always like to look at like, hey, like are people having a poor experience here, Catherine? But we haven't seen like there's no like major red flags that we've seen with that. Let's see. Vendoroo, one vendor, but actually call it different vendor in the same industry. I believe that was from Sarah. Yeah, Sarah, that one definitely flagged to us, and we can look into that further. Looks like something that we might need to train something. Sometimes if vendors have similar information in them, it may recommend it, or just like the selection was fat fingered by the AI, so to speak. But we can always take a look at those. Just reach out to, I believe Stacia is yours. All right, and then Brandy, we are looking at that right now. I don't have a firm timeline, but everything within our company seems to be operating in days and weeks versus months. So I do know that that is being evaluated, but I'm not exactly sure on the exact timeline. Gray, yeah. So if we decide to purchase the highest tier, so you're referring to command with the human interaction, is there training between the humans on your team and the humans on my team before they go live? So yes and no. And so as a part of our onboarding process, we educate you on like how your AI teammate makes decisions. Also, if you're on the command tier, you do get that human concierge kind of person. It isn't a dedicated individual because we internally with our human loop, we're very passionate about the human in the loop understanding that specific point in the process. So they become an expert in that point of the process. So when you're talking about command, like and HOAs, like an HOA conversation is very different than an owner conversation, which is very different from submitting a home warranty claim. And so we have specialized roles in there, but your AI onboarding coach and your long-term AI coach, what they're there to do is to make sure that the brain of your AI, which also is utilized by your human in the loop team to keep things on track, and also for things like owner communication that are more manual and home warranty claims are fully manual, that those are taken into account. And so if anything deviates or goes away from what you expect, work with your AI coach. But also like the goal of this is that you have a singular AI teammate. We don't have like from your perspective, there's not like the only two are really the receptionist, which is the AI voice, and then your AI teammate that's doing the maintenance coordination. Like we don't want you to think that you have 15 employees that you have to interact with individually. And like same thing with the human in the loop and concierge. You should have one point, one education point, one point of contact as well that just gets it done for you. Do that. I Kevin, I like that. There are very, very good AI like avatars now. But I wouldn't do that to you. This is fun for us. This is part of our human loop piece. We like being face to face with as many clients as we possibly can. Let's see. Brian asked. Brian, yes, that is something. So Brian's asking, can I configure or train the AI to tag only the maintenance coordinator for all maintenance related issues, questions, and follow-ups? Yes, face value. Yes, that should be able to be done for Appfolio and Rentvine. We also just released our first phase of like property specific escalations as well, and like visibility with which escalations are assigned to who. So if you have a property manager or maintenance coordinator that's assigned to a specific property, it will actually be able to look at that for Rentvine and Appfolio right now with Buildium coming soon, and like who to route that escalation to. So definitely reach out to your AI coach, and they should be able to assist with that for sure. There are some other like nuances to that, so I don't want to say like it's definitely possible. Depending upon like your structure, there may be something we just need to tweak or change or kind of meet in the middle to facilitate that. But we have functionality that lots of clients have that help at this point route it to the right person. Christian, yes. So languages are being improved for everybody's knowledge here. We had it open, pretty open originally, and recently we did see it kind of move into languages that it shouldn't have switched languages essentially. So right now we have pulled that back to be Spanish and English, and it should flip pretty simply and easily. And so if you notice that it's not triggering appropriately, definitely let us know. But one cool thing about our human loop is that the vast majority of them are bilingual, and we did that on purpose too, because English and Spanish are the two biggest languages in the United States. So even your human loop, if it's going in through and it's in Spanish, they can also interpret that and understand where the work order is. But yes, we have like kind of dialed it back to Spanish and English while we figure out a couple better tweaks for other languages. But if there's a specific language that is really important to you that's outside of those two, definitely let us know. Feedback from clients is really like the number one thing on how we grow and like how we direct a lot of our time. So if there's something that you're seeing that would be super helpful for you to have as to manage your business, definitely let us know. Right. Well, I think we're just at about time, but it's a pleasure as always. Love to see the names in the attendees chat. Any topics, questions come up, you always have your AI coach that you can reach out to. And we always want to hear feedback from our wonderful clients. Anybody that was on here that was prospective, please feel free to reach out with any additional questions. Like we want to make sure it's the right step for you and that you can be as successful as possible overall.